So today we're going to be talking about the spread offense. This is an offense that was made famous by Brad Underwood when he was at Stephen F. Austin, then at Oklahoma State, and now at Illinois. And Dana Altman, the coach at Oregon, also runs this. They run it a little bit differently, but the basic idea is still the same. And so here's sort of an overview of what I'm going to be touching on. And my teams are just kind of learning this as well. This is their first summer doing this, and it's something that I've really kind of fallen in love with just because of all the options that you get out of it. But I'll go over some basic diagrams, show some practice and scrimmage film, then some actual game film from our spring. Uh, we'll go over all of the different basic actions, the first cut, second cut, into the big part of the offense, which is two-man game and the pinch post, some of the reads that the players can make, some of the calls that I might make, and every video that I do, I invariably get emails from coaches saying, hey, does this work against a zone? Well, spread actually does. I think you can run this against man or zone. It's designed as a man offense, but I'll show some clips of a team. I think they were running a 1-2-2 against us, and you can kind of get an idea of how it might work. So let's jump right into the basic diagrams of this. So here's your basic setup, and it'll probably remind many of you of Princeton, sort of the chin set. That this pass from the guard to the wing triggers that initial back screen, and that's traditional Princeton stuff. You'll get this maybe a couple of times a game, but that's the first action. When that ball goes to the wing, it sets that back screen. Now this is followed by something that makes the spread unique, the second cut. Two was the first cut, and then immediately the second cut comes from the opposite wing. And as you'll see on film, this is a really, really tough action to guard. And we want to sprint these cuts, and we want to try to put pressure on the rim. Sometimes we jog them, which makes the offense less effective. But if we can get to the rim, you're going to see how on film here that this cut, we consistently face cut our defenders on this. So when Underwood runs this offense, he will almost always run this back cut, where Altman allows this player to make a read. And that's kind of how we do it. We like to get to the rim, but we can also cut over to the opposite elbow. We can curl it. We can pop out. There's a lot that we can do. So that's your second cut, second action. This leads into really what I think is the most important aspect of this offense, and that's the two-man game. So the first two cuts weren't open. We now have the first cutter in the corner, four here is on the block, and we are looking to make a skip pass from 3 to 5. And while that looks like a pretty dangerous pass, if you think about it, X5 has to support on these cuts, because if they don't, you're probably going to get something right at the rim. So if these aren't open and X5 is sagged down into here, we can look to directly skip the ball to 5. That's what we want to do. Now sometimes that's not open, and if it's not, we can play two-man game by just throwing it back to the guard and then playing off of that, which I'll show some clips of that as well. But if we can skip it, and then as the ball's in the air, this guard's cutting, that makes the offense really click. So here's the action into two-man game. And there's all kinds of stuff that you can do out of two-man game based on what your personnel is. I think if your 5 is a playmaker or a really good post player, this offense is very, very tough to guard. If 5 is a traditional just screener, roller, rebounder, you can still get a lot of mileage out of it, but I like having someone that can play a little bit in this spot. The offense is very good for bigger guards. It's very good if you have guards that might not be, you can't run something like pistol or our Euro ball screen stuff because you might not have the ball handlers. We still run that stuff, but this is a really good offense if you're a little bit more less dynamic with your ball handling. And plus the actions are hard to guard. So anyway, you're coming off, 1's going to come for a handoff, drive it, 5's rolling, and then everybody else is going to fill those 4 spots. Your 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are all interchangeable in this offense. They're all going to run every spot. and your 5 is your pinch post. So we're going to assume here that 5 handed the ball off to 1 and didn't get anything out of it. 1's going to drive it. She's going to bounce it out here. We're looking to feed 5 if we can again. X3, this will lead to some shots here. If X3 doesn't help down here, we're going to throw it to 5. If not, we throw it to 3. This can be a shot, a drive, but we also love this high-low. And you'll see some clips of that. Very, very hard to guard. If that's not open, we're looking to skip the ball to 4, and then 3 would be the first cut, 1 would be the second cut, and we're right back to the offense. If we can't skip to 4, we can take it to 2, we can take it to 1, and we can still run our first, second cut action. Let's get right into some live footage. And we're going to start off with a lot of practice and scrimmage film. And then we'll get into some game film so you can see how they kind of put it into action. And I actually have 2 different teams that are running this. So this is one of our first scrimmages, an inter-program scrimmage, and here comes your first cut, and we get one here at the rim. You'll see a lot of these are all first cut layups. So here's an example of what we teach. So get to this here. So on that pass, here's our first cut. The player that we are reading is this defender. So she is guarding our post. And we teach this player, if she is not sagged and if she's not looking, throw it, because that's probably going to be open. She didn't move at all, so we get an easy one. And again, you'll get a couple of those maybe a game, especially if you're sprinting your cuts. All right, this is our other team that's also running spread this year. Moving it. There's sort of a curl cut on the first one. We missed the layup, but we're still getting shots right at the rim. Okay, this was our second practice running spread. So this team is literally in the learning phases of this. And I wanted to put this in because it also shows one of our pressure releases. So let's say that we're being denied on the wings. We like to do a dribble handoff and then an interchange on the other side of the floor, as you can see right there, just to kind of relieve some pressure and get the defense moving. There's your first cut. And a bucket. Again, not the best defense in the world, but this is like our second practice. Moving it. There it is again. This is, again, just terrible defense. She gets an open 3, but the idea here is to look at those cuts. Watch the post defender. She's guarding the post. Now, we missed this layup here, and I'm kind of messing with my kids, but she's not looking. Got to throw it. We blow the layup, and I'm just messing with my girls there. But here's another one. Move it. The post player's not really paying attention. She might not even look open right here. But again, look at our view. Throw it. All right. Again, this is just practice film. They get a switch, throw it to our second cutter. A lot of options here. All right, this is an actual game. Tough camera angle but that was a first cut layup. This one is out of transition. And this was really good. So this girl had thrown the ball here to that guard, and she just hits the jets because she knows she's going to be the first cutter. Really good. All right, this is an outstanding first cut example of what I talked about reading this defender. We don't even really sprint this cut, but look, that post defender doesn't help. That's when you get those. And this is a great example of it too. So again, watch this defender. This was one of our live program scrimmages. Great job here by number 1. Another teaching point here is don't fight the pressure. Always just try to get to the rim. She's not letting her face cut, which is fine. And she falls asleep. And we get an easy one. All right, here's another teaching point. There's first cut, we get a face cut. When we throw it down here, we're always telling our post, who is setting our screen here on the elbow, to dive weak side. And we get an easy one against a really good team. Okay, now we're talking second cuts. And this is so hard to guard. So let's back this up again. First cut goes through. The girl in the white here is the second cutter, and she can go under the screen or she can curl it. She ends up face cutting, and that I mean it is amazing to me how often that is open. And when we throw it, backside post, dive. All right, this is another scrimmage. First cut, second cut, face cut, and you're going to see another dive on the weak side. Okay, first cut. So now this girl is guarding her, and this is a mismatch, but she has the option. She can curl over the top, she can cut to the rim, but she's not even paying attention, so she just cuts right in front of her, and we get a really easy one. We'll take that all day. All right, game footage. Let's back that one up again. First cut probably was open, but that's okay. She decides to go high. They're really hard sagging. We have been running this for most of the game, but we get her on the elbow, and then a good player just goes to work. Putting your kids in pretty good spots in this offense. There's your first cut. There's your second one. Now we also try and teach them if you get doubled, you're going to have this kick out 3. But she ends up just spinning and scoring on this one. Second cut, we throw it to one of our smaller guards, but she still gets to the rim and scores. Okay, so this is a read that she makes. So let's, and again, I'm allowing our girls to kind of determine what they want to do. Here's our first cut. That girl is guarding her. She cuts to the rim. There's a traffic jam. So she's just going to pop out here. She's a great shooter. That's just a read that she makes. Now, there are calls that we'll make that I'll get into later. All right. First cut. Second cut. We're kind of jogging. There's that kick out I talked about. Really good shooter. She misses it, but that's a really good look. And you'll get that quite a bit. All right. So now we're going to talk about those first 2 cuts are a huge part of the offense, but the problem that we had when we ran just chin is that if we didn't get the back screen layup, we didn't get much out of the flare screen in chin. So if we weren't getting the back cut, we weren't really getting much. So with spread, you're going to get the ball into your post player's hands a lot. That could be good or bad depending on who your post is, and that player has the freedom to make plays, and which you'll see. But the 2-man game is really important. So there's our first cut. Second cut, which again, I think you can make the argument that she's open, but now we're looking to skip the ball. A little bit too high, that's all right, and then we just get an easy one on the roll. This whole side of the floor is cleared out for what is called the 2-man game. Very, very tough stuff to guard. First cut, second cut. We don't necessarily like to throw it out here, and let me show you here. So, excuse me. If that's not open, we can throw it to this guard that you can't see right here, and then we can still play 2-man game. We can throw and go, we can set a ball screen, whatever you want. But here we still throw it, and now you're going to get one-on-one, and there's just that's trouble if she gets it down there. All right, this is another practice. This is very, very early when we were first putting it in. First cut, second cut. Skip it, and we're going to get our big here on the roll. All right, back to our second day scrimmage here. Handoff, drive it, score. Tough to guard. Now the teaching point on this is when the ball's in the air, we should be going. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. So not open. She didn't like it. We're going to throw it. And this guard can get as high as she needs to. It doesn't really matter. So we throw it. Now she has the option to throw it to her and get it back for a handoff, or she can call for a ball screen. Again, this was like day 2 of learning this, so they're still kind of learning the ins and outs of it. Swing it back. We're in the continuity. Again, there's first cut, second cut, look to skip. Can't do it. This was a really good job of staying in the offense, not panicking. You can call me looking at me calling for a reset, dribble handoff, interchange. Really impressive for day 2 of doing this. There's our cuts. Get into our post. Now we're playing two-man game. Not open. Second cutter's going to come and get it. That was really good. All right. First cut, second cut. Looking to skip. And looking to drive. She's a lefty, so pretty good move for her. All right, so this is actually, even though we're still doing our two-man game drive stuff, but this was actually a call, which I'll show more later, to where we're trying to get this girl a 3, where she's going to come off of a stagger here. We don't get it, so now we get back into spread. And again, this was very early with this team. All right, now game time. There's our first cut. There's our second. Skip. Flying off. Love it. Great take. We miss it, but that's really good. Right at the rim, and now we're just playing basketball out of it. All right. So here's some examples. First cut, second cut. Can't skip it. She's actually saying, "Hey, come through this ball screen," but she ends up throwing it to her, driving it, drawing a foul. It's hard to guard. And here's another. This is another missed layup, but this really shows you, especially the timing on this. So that ball's in the air. She should be running for the handoff, and she is. All right, so here's some other reads out of two-man game. So yes, you can hand the ball off, she can drive, but here's some reads for you to consider. We're getting in it, moving it. Good job getting reset. First cut, second cut. Don't have it. Staying in the continuity. Look to skip. Tough to guard. Now here's some actual game footage. So here's the read. Now she ends up banking this in, but here's the read. If this girl goes under the handoff, just throw it up here for a 3. They all count. First cutter, second cutter, who I think was open. These are two good players just playing basketball, just playing two-man game. And we're going to miss another really good look here from a really good player, but then that's the read. So if she chases over top, you want to try to beat her to the spot for the handoff. But if she's going to sag, I mean, that's a really good look. All right, back to some practice footage. There's our cuts. There's our skip. And this is one of my favorite parts of the offense, is the high-low. So let's back this up again. Our cutters are going through, and you can see there's the help. So that's why the skip is open. And a great job here. So she caught it. She was dead running right as that ball was in the air. That makes that really tough to guard. Don't have it. And we get the seal, and we're looking for that high-low. And there is just no one there to really help. And these are all examples of our high-low stuff. Don't have it, swing it back. Perfect. Now these, I think she misses a couple of these, but still, you're going to get the idea. You got kick-out threes here if they want to double. It's just hard actions to guard. Everyone rotates to their spots, getting those 4 spots covered. Our guards sometimes don't want to look in when they should. And you can see her, it's like, throw it to her. You can't see me, but I'm losing my mind here to get her the ball. All right, game footage. There's our skip. Caught a little bit too high, but that's all right. And normally she's money from here. I mean, that's a pretty good look for her. Now I put this one in because it's an opportunity that we miss. I mean, that's got to go right there. Now driving it is certainly an option out of that, but take kind of a bad shot and don't get anything out of it. And this was a good high-low here too. This is putting a playmaker in that spot here is awful effective, and I'll show you some more clips of that. Tough to stop. Okay, so now we've put number 30 in the pinch post, and she's a very dynamic player. So she's here faking handoffs and just going to work. And here's another one. And again, still kind of learning the offense, but yeah, tough to deal with that. Now here's an example of our traditional post player. Again, this is a big part of two-man games. So you got the handoff, you've got the high-low, you got if she goes under, you're going to look to shoot a three. Well, now what is this defender mostly going to do when you've been running the handoff action? She's either going to hedge this a little bit or it's going to be a flat switch. And watch what our big does. Fake it and go. And that's open a ton. Another good example of just our big going to work because you cleared out that whole side of the floor. I believe she draws a foul on this one. Can't skip it. Throw and go. And fouled. The big part of the offense. All right. Now here's some natural drives. Now we typically tell this player, if you're going to drive, do it early. Now she waits and still scores. But with no help, when that ball goes to the wing, if you see a lane, we give our kids the freedom just to go baseline. Kind of like you're refusing a screen in the ball screen offense. And we encourage kids to do that, especially if they feel like that the girl can't guard them. Because they're getting used to all those cuts. Yep, so it's difficult actions. And here's another one. Throw it to the wing. We know that cutter's going. Just rip it and go. Now, this is a good one because we run some continuity, and then we drive a closeout, and we get a layup. In the two-man game, tries to keep it, nothing there, staying in it, moving the ball, driving it. That's really good stuff. Very hard to add any help there. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about our post entries. So this is another pressure release. So if we're being denied, or if this person's denied, they're denying the wings, it's really difficult for a team to deny both wings and the other guard and the post. Because if she's being denied, we teach her just to seal and we're going to lob it because there's no help. Because if they're denying all four other players, and if she's not being denied and she's going to help here, we're going to skip it and then run first cut, second cut. But the post entry, what you do off the post entry is very much up to you. There's a million things you can do out of this. We keep it simple. We're either going to scissor cut or we're going to basket cut. All right, there's our interchange. Get it to the post, and she's a really good player. Just goes to work. You don't have to do the DHO interchange, obviously. You can just throw it to the post to start, but we like getting some movement. There's just a cut. And again, you can just cut, you can scissor cut. You know, it's really, the offense allows for a lot of your coaching creativity to kind of do what you want. All right, here's some game action. Now this was actually a call that I made. We are in our spread formation, but we threw it to the post, and we wanted her just to post up from the wing. A lot of stuff that you can do out of that formation. All right, so here, this is another call that we made on post entry. We're going to run some zoom action. There's a girl here, that lefty who's in the corner here. So 5 is down screening. She's going to cut over top. We're going to set a double screen for our lefty. She's got a kick out option, but she just takes it. Another post entry. Scissor cut, drive and kick. All right, so now let's talk about one of the calls that we make is called 5. And 5 is to get our post player a 3. What's supposed to happen, again, this was like day 2. This girl is supposed to set a screen on her defender, because if that post defender is sagging, she's just going to screen her in. And if you've got a big that can shoot, very, very tough to guard. Here's a good example of it. First cut, the second cutter sets that screen. And this is game footage. First cut, second cut, great look. And here it is again. First cut, we don't even set the screen, and she still gets a good look and knocks it down. And if your 5 can play, you have the opportunity to drive closeouts. There's your screen. She gets through it, then we just drive it. All right. Now let's talk about double. This is another just simple little call that we make. We have the first cutter is going to go through as normal right there. The second cutter is going to pop out. She's going to cut here and pop out. And we're trying to set a double stagger for her. Now we shoot this one from the parking lot, but you get the idea what we're trying to get. And we will call this when players like this are expecting that second cut and they're sagging. And then that's wide open. There it is again. There's your stagger, wide open 3. First cut, second cut, just really good looks. Just something to kind of keep people off, off balance a little bit. Here are some back doors, and again, with it being that Princeton formation, you're going to get some natural backdoor opportunities. She's not open, we're coming for the second handoff, and we just back cut it. There's a lot of those in this offense just because of the nature of our formation. There's our cut, second cut, 2-man game, fake the first one. Yep. Now this one, we're just playing basketball here. This isn't something. Hey, I didn't call this. This is just kids making reads. And here's another one where we run first cut. Allow your players to make plays. Don't be robots. Now this is another little entry that we will run. It's just a scissor cut. We're going to let her go through, then the post is going to screen for her. Maybe illegal, but hey, we get a switch and an and one. Okay, so here's some stuff against the zone. And this just kind of fell in my lap. We were just running spread, and all of a sudden this team jumps into a 1-2-2. But as you can see, it's still pretty effective. You might not get your cutters, but look at the actions that are open. And there's one example here that I wanted to show you. So again, we're in two-man game. We're just playing, throwing it back. And now it's almost like she flashes to the logo and gets a good look. We have a kick out 3 if we want it. Now we're going to get a nice roll on this one. There's first cut. There's second cut. I know it's a zone, but that's all right. She's going to use it like a ball screen. Roll. We missed this, but it's a really pretty tough to guard. We're going to experiment a little bit more with this against the zone, but I do like it. Now look at that. We had not practiced this against the zone, but look at what this can do here against this 1-2-2. We're in two-man game. She's going to roll and get inside. That's got to go right there. And if you can get that against a zone, you have to take it. We end up missing this, and I think we end up turning this over. But yeah, so that's the basics of the spread. There is obviously more things you can do with it. There's more quick hitters that I've looked at, but that's the basic idea. I think if you have a 5 who can play a little bit, or if you have a team with some bigger guards, it's very, very hard to guard. Or if you have a team that might not be, the best ball handling team, and if you're traditionally a dribble drive coach, or you're running something like pistol or a bunch of ball screens, but you don't have guards that can necessarily do that. I think this puts the defense in a pretty tough situation. And I'll put some more clips up as our season rolls on to show you some more actions out of it. But again, just as normal, if you have any questions, put it down in the comments. Send me an email. I'll be happy to help.